Hello, I'm going to show you how to make Barbari bread, the famous Iranian bread, which I baked a few days ago, and lots of my friends got really excited, so I thought I'd let everybody know how to make it. And the reason I'm going through this in English is because I've got lots of non-Iranian friends who showed interest, so I thought I'll go in English, and then my Iranian friends will will understand it anyway. So first of all, I'll tell you about the ingredients. We need, of course, white flour, 3.5 cups. We need yeast, 2.25 teaspoons. Baking powder, 1 teaspoon. We need salt, 1 teaspoon. And then when you're going to work with the dough in the oven tray, you will need some flour underneath, which is going to be whole wheat flour. And on the top you can either put sesame seeds or poppy seeds. And also, of course, you need water, 1.5 cups. And then there is a special sauce that most of us don't know that exists. Is the special sauce that is on top of the Barbari bread, which makes it golden and tasty. And that is made with 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of white flour, and 2/3 a cup of water. So before you start with anything, before going through with the dough, it's a good idea to start doing the sauce, which is very simple. You just put 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of flour and 2/3 of a cup of water. So I've already got some water in my 1 cup, and it looks like 2/3, so I'll just pour that in. So you just gently mix that. And because you don't want to get lumps, so you just gently mix it. And then after it's mixed and there are no lumps, you put it on the hob and let it boil. Only just as soon as it starts to boil, you turn off the cooker and put it aside for it to cool down. So I'm going to do that. So I'm back, and as I told you, I just put the water, bicarbonate of soda and the flour, and just as it started to boil, turned it off, and this is it. This is the sauce, which is not really exciting, but just put it aside to cool down. Then we need to start with the dough, and if you're lucky and you have a bread machine, then you can just put all the ingredients in the bread machine and make the dough, and then start from there, which I've already done, and I've got the dough ready with the bread machine. But I'm going to show you how to do it the other way, which is just manually making the dough. So what you need to do is you need to have some warm water and dissolve the yeast in some warm water, and that was 2 and 1/4 of a teaspoon. So you just let it dissolve and leave it aside for about 3 minutes, and then so you put all the flour on the board. Then after 3 minutes you start pouring the yeast mixture. Oh, and before that you need to have the flour and the salt and the baking powder all mixed together. Then you add, just gradually you start adding the water yeast mixture, and you start mixing in the middle, and you just carry on mixing and mixing, and then after you've done that you add your water, which I'll put in the cups. And the water needed for 3.5 cups of flour is 1.5 cups. So you just knead and knead for about 15 minutes, and which I'm not going to carry on because it's a little bit time consuming, and I wanted to make a really quick video. So you just keep mixing until you have a very soft dough, something like this, but you will have used all the flour. So now I'm going to put this aside because we've got the dough ready. So I'll put this aside, and I bring my other board, put some flour, and bring the dough out from the bread machine. And that could be a little bit tricky because the dough is quite soft. So just, and we'll want to get the most of it, so sprinkle some more flour. So this is it. Just leave this one here. So as you see, the dough is quite soft, and 3.25 cups of 3.25 cups of flour is enough for 2 proper Barbari breads. So I'm gonna make this dough into 2 parts. It's quite sticky, and just leave them here because we need to transfer them to the oven trays. So this is cooled down, so I'm just going to leave it here. Move aside a little bit the stuff I've got. Then we get a little bit of our whole wheat flour, sprinkle it in the oven tray, because the dough is going to stay in the tray for a while to rise and all that, and you don't want it to stick to the tray, then because it will be trouble taking the bread out. So this is our dough. Let me take this one. It looks quite bigger. So you put it on the tray. Then I just take off all the excess dough from my fingers, because now is the time to dip fingers in the sauce. Yeah, that's it. So it's time to dip fingers in the sauce, and like this. idea to put some of the sauce at the beginning on top of the dough to make it wet. Just to make it wet, and then after that you just make the dough, spread it a little bit. So you dip your fingers in the sauce and you do start dipping, but you do it like in lines, you know, the way Barbari looks. It's got, you see the lines going from top to the bottom. So you just start doing that. Okay. And it's a good idea to put as much sauce as you can, because this is really the trick to the golden Barbari bread. So now you need to put this aside for about 45 minutes for it to rise, and then you can start working with it again. So if it's in winter, I would just put it on the radiator, which is, I'm going to speed things up. So I'll put it on the radiator. This is, I'm going to show you, you can see from very close how to deal with the dough. So you sprinkle some whole wheat flour, and you put the dough very slowly on top of that, and you just shape it, you know, the way it's going to be, the Barbari is going to be like that. Then this is the sauce, so you put just a tiny bit of the sauce on the top to just wet the surface, which I think is enough. Then you just need to spread the dough a little bit, so you just dip your fingers and start doing this. And it's really good if you could put as much sauce as you can, not too much though, because it gives it such a beautiful taste. You know what we've always remembered back home. So this is it. Then you need to leave this somewhere warm, you know, cover it, leave it somewhere warm for about 45 minutes. And then after 45 minutes, then it's time to work with the dough again, and then just put it in the oven. And because it's winter, we've got the radiators, I'll just put it on the radiator. It would speed things up. So it's just next to the other one, which is there. Okay, as you see, the dough has doubled the thickness, so I'm going to take it back and oops. So you do a little bit of more of this with the sauce, just to make sure that you've got enough sauce covered on your bread. And then you can either put some sesame seed, which is my favorite. So, but you don't usually see that in the proper Barbari bread. So I'm going to put some poppy seeds as well, just to make it look like a proper Barbari bread. And this is it. The next and most important step is to spread the dough, which is really important. So you need to have enough flour at the borders, so you're not going to end up with a bread stuck to the pan. Okay then, so you hold this side just spread it towards the end, and then you go to the other side and do the same. It's quite tricky because now the dough is very soft and you don't want to lose the shape, so you just spread it to the end, and as you see, it looks like a proper Barbari bread. And this is ready to go into the oven. So you should have heated the oven about 5 minutes before you want to put the bread in the oven to 190 degrees, and you put the bread in the oven for about 30 minutes. But I find with my oven, which is fan operated, you need to put it in the oven for about 15 minutes. So you can always tell when the bread is ready, because you will see that it's golden. So I'm gonna put this in the oven, and it doesn't really matter if you've got a fan operated oven, it doesn't really matter which level to put it. So I'm just gonna put it in the oven and wait for about, maximum time that you have to wait is 30 minutes. Okay, it's about 20 minutes after I've put the bread in the oven, and as you see, it looks golden. So I'm going to open the oven and just check on them, and it's obvious, it's done. So this one's coming out, and this is it really. Our bread is done, and you just leave it to cool down for a few minutes and have it with feta cheese or whatever you wish. Enjoy!